Hello, here we are once again with Mookie Tenembaum. We are exploring his disillusionism, his system of philosophy through these videos. We are addressing his misalgic theory about human behavior as a way of avoiding or preventing suffering. And we are now trying week after week to analyze very practical stuff, very concrete stuff, almost verging on daily life stuff, in a way to apply these concepts, to apply these abstract definitions, and to find ways of illustrating arguments and discussions we already had in this channel. But as I said, taking into consideration things that affect every one of us in our life, we are now going to analyze weddings. We are now going to analyze not marriage, but the actual ceremony, the process for which we formalize, we legalize unions, and what this has to do with illusions as we have been analyzing them, with organized religion, with state, with families. So we'll take a look at that and see what happens.
Well, as you say, weddings affect and are related to our three main illusions. That's the religion and the God, the state, and the family. All of them are involved in one way or another in a wedding. Of course, there are people who only get married in front of a judge and there is no religion involved, but there is a lot of religion discussed, if there is any, between the parties. If one is Muslim and the other one is Christian, or Jews and Orthodox, or whatever combination that you want, or some people who are atheists and they don't want, but there is a transactional process going around with that. But the thing about weddings is that it looks like an exception. Okay, everybody say, okay, we really sleepwalk all our lives, but when we get married, we make a decision. And I will say maybe, probably not, but maybe that will be as far as I would go. Why? Because normally people marry people from their own class, and people, in fact, from the very close geography. Of course, everybody knows a guy who is married to somebody from Tahiti or from Fiji or from Bolivia or whoever. Of course, we know a lot of people like that, but we know them because they are not the common thing. The common thing is you marry not your sweetheart from a high school, but from the university, and if not, from work. It's about that. That's about how it works. I'm talking heterosexual weddings, homosexual weddings, polygamy, even in polygamic weddings, in which men are marrying more than one woman. It's about that. In fact, they are, interestingly enough, they're about the same age in general. Yes, I mean, you could, when you know somebody who is married to somebody younger, much younger, that's an exception. So this is a very almost program when you are born who you're going to marry. I know it sounds that, what do you mean? You don't make a decision? The answer is you end up in that decision. In the United States, all the audience knows that people get married before they get married, they get engaged. And they get engaged by asking their hand. And the man will go on his knees, and the woman, in the case of heterosexual families, will receive a diamond ring, and that's it. And that was it. And then they will go tell their parents, and the parents says, oh, this makes me so happy. I'm so proud of my son who finally gets married. It's so nice. And have you talked about children? Have you this? Let's talk about the wedding. And from then on, for the next year, give or take, depending on the people, this is the only issue they will be talking about. But they will talk about it in a sleepwalking manner. They will, why? Because they will imitate somebody else's wedding. People are not original when they wed. And it's not a coincidence. People do almost exactly what other people did. So if it's a Jewish wedding in Argentina, where you first dance, then you eat, then you dance, then you eat, then you dance, almost all the weddings will be that way. I mean, I never went to a Jewish wedding, and I went to several, in which this rule did not apply. I'm talking about simple things. Not talk even about the menu, of course, depending on how rich the family is, but still, it's, you know, that if you're going with a certain economic people who are very well off, you will see certain things in the food that you will not see in the ones that are cheaper, but they will imitate each other. They may decide to do something exceptional. The child will come in with his favorite soccer shirt and play with the ball, and that is, and then everybody does it. It doesn't matter, you know. And even the presents. I remember when I was younger, and I went to weddings in Israel, who were very, very unusual, because the wedding began at 7, exactly at 7. People eat while the couple wed. Okay? You were sitting at the table eating. You know, very nice. It's like a spectacle. And then at 11, everybody sang the national anthem and they left. That was it. It was the wedding finished. And that was the wedding that was in Israel. Okay. But every wedding was the same. When I'm saying a wedding, why am I saying it? Because I cannot distinguish one wedding from the other. I was in a wedding from somebody in my family. I'm not going to reveal what, in which a person close was fainted. Right? That I remember, because normally people don't faint in weddings, and certainly you don't call the ambulance or doctors.
I see what you mean. I have the same experience, albeit under different circumstances and in different countries. But isn't there a contradiction of sorts here? Because isn't this supposed to be an exceptional, a singular event? And the fact is that it's so similar, so almost like a ritual that repeats itself in situation after situation. So isn't there a contradiction of sorts there between the memorable and momentous occasion that it's supposed to be taking place and the fact that it's so similar, so very much alike many other situations, which almost makes them, as you said, undistinguishable from each other? Isn't there a problem
there? The answer is this. When you see, let's say, Hamlet by Shakespeare, okay, this is the maybe 10,000 times that this play was played, even with different casts, of course. But for the people in the cast that it's playing today, it's an exception. Unless they are doing it like the Mousetrap in London for the last 50 years, unless they are doing that, the fact that they are playing Shakespeare for the first time is the first time for them. For the rest, the same. To be or not to be, that is the question. That did not change. And if they start changing Hamlet too much, people will not go to see it. It's exactly the same story. So what happened? For the people who are wed, certainly, and for the egosphere, it's an event. It's an event. It's an exception because they don't do it every day. That's the reason they do the whole thing. You know, when people marry for the third time, there's not too many ceremonies. You know, it's but normally you marry once. You may marry more, but that first time. So there is all about that time. So the groom dresses and tries his clothes three times during the month before. And remember, you are in the year, yes, that year, the year towards the wedding. And every time you meet with somebody, you say, how are you? Well, we are working with the wedding. It looks like very nice. It looks like we will have fish for the second course, or chicken. I'm making a decision here. There's the decision-making process. Yes. The question is, why somebody, and I will go away, I'm going away from what you asked, but why somebody in his sane mind will spend a huge amount of money on being a restaurant once for something that nobody, and I guarantee that nobody will remember. And the whole idea of the wedding is that people will not remember it. Why? Because they are sleepwalking, and it's all fine. They are in the wedding and they are sleepwalking. If they go to a Jewish wedding and they never been to the Jewish wedding, they will remember that wedding. Of course, if I went to Taiwan, I went to a wedding in Taiwan. In Taiwan, the weddings are huge, are in the street, are immense, and everybody comes with a pot, a big pot, like a cooking pot, you know. And they come in and they eat, and whatever is left, the leftovers they take. But the family who just did that is broke. So disillusionism is, why are you going to do something that will impoverish you or will cost you a lot for something that nobody will remember?
This takes us back to the power of illusion, doesn't it? Because there are consequences, as there are actual material costs involved in organizing a wedding. There are costs, illusionary costs involved in not organizing one. The state, the religion, the family, they will all come after you if you do not comply with all the terms and the aspects of the ritual.
Not only that, you were invited to a lot of weddings. You were invited to a lot of weddings. If you were invited, you are supposed to invite. This is just a small part of it. The pain that you are describing is huge. There is shame involved. There is the moral conscience done something that is not fair just to save your money. Why do you need money? I mean, you are supposed to give back to community. We talk about it a lot. And people, mine was a rhetorical question. Those who decide not to have a wedding, they know why not to have it. Those who probably have to do it. They don't have a choice. It's like, why are you paying your debts if after that you will be broke? Because I owe the debts. Because I prefer to be broke than to be a deadbeat.
But there are, as we always say, and I think it applies here, there are practical sides. There are actual bits of fact here and there in the illusionary framework, because you will get, I know this myself, you will get a piece of paper from the state that will make things easier when you need to take children in and out from the country, for instance. And if you don't get married, there will be a cost involved, a very real, a very tangible cost involved. And I think there are many other ways in which the illusion will punish you, as it were, for not getting married.
It's really not punishing you, it's doing the other way around. It makes sure that you will get married. Why? Because that will give them control on who they are and who you live with. Number two, there is a tax benefit that probably the government give it to you because they want, and they know that people who are married tend to stay longer together than people who are not, and thus have children, and thus the economy is benefited because there is more people in the country. I never understood that logic, but that's how it works. So, but again, there is no intention. It's not chain of intentions ending in that. There is a chain of non-intention. It's a non-intentional thing, the wedding. It's not intentional. Nobody is trying to do anything. They're just trying not to do something, to avoid not doing. It's like lacking something. Yes, it's you go out and suddenly you see you went out without socks. You put the shoes without socks, and you're going to a meeting or something. There is something missing. It's not. Can you go? Of course. Do you need socks for the meeting? Unless you sell socks, there is nothing to do with socks in a meeting. But you will not go into a meeting without socks. And it is as simple as and as terrible as that. This is like socks. Yes, you don't go around not wedding. Okay, and remember, we know a lot of people who are not wed, but we can name them. That means they are the exception.
Very well. So we'll go back, I'm sure, to this very instance, this very example of wedding and marriages, and to different ceremonies and aspects of everyday life. But I think it's good enough for a first attempt at analyzing this. See you next time.
See you next time.
If you enjoyed the video, please like it, comment and subscribe.